$12 billion. That is the number FIFA has built its future around. 12 billion in projected revenue. 12 billion in sponsorships, broadcasting deals, hospitality packages, licensing agreements, ticket sales, and commercial partnerships spread across every corner of the football world. For years, FIFA believed the 2026 World Cup would become the most profitable sporting event in human history, a tournament larger than anything football had ever attempted before. 48 teams, 3 host nations, 16 host cities, billions of viewers, and a financial model that was supposed to prove football had become the most powerful commercial force in global sports. The plan looked perfect. The contracts were signed. The sponsors committed billions. Broadcasters secured rights years in advance. Cities invested enormous sums preparing for millions of visitors. Everything appeared to be moving exactly according to schedule, until reality started arriving. Not through one disaster, not through one scandal, not through one catastrophic mistake, but through dozens of small pressures emerging at exactly the same time. And that is how large institutions get into trouble, not because of one problem, but because manageable problems begin reinforcing each other. And suddenly, a model that looked unstoppable starts looking fragile. The story of FIFA's $12 billion bet is not really about football. Football is the easy part. The difficult part is everything surrounding football: the politics, the economics, the logistics, the expectations, the assumptions. And right now, those assumptions are being tested in real time. Because every billion-dollar projection depends on something far more important than money. It depends on confidence. And confidence is becoming harder to maintain. To understand why, we need to understand how the $12 billion machine was built in the first place. The largest piece of FIFA's commercial empire comes from broadcasting. Without television and streaming rights, the entire financial model falls apart. Broadcasters pay enormous sums because the World Cup attracts audiences unlike anything else on Earth. Entire nations stop. Cities pause, families gather, billions watch. That attention creates value, and that value creates revenue. But broadcasters do not simply buy football, they buy certainty. They buy predictability. They buy the expectation that the tournament will dominate global attention for weeks. The problem is that attention has become more competitive than ever. Every entertainment company in the world is fighting for the same audience. Streaming platforms, social media, gaming companies, short-form content. Every minute of viewer attention is now contested. And when attention becomes harder to capture, the value of broadcasting assumptions becomes harder to guarantee. Then there are sponsors. The global brands whose logos appear on stadium boards, television graphics, and promotional campaigns seen by billions. Most people think sponsorship is advertising. It isn't. Advertising sells products. Sponsorship sells association. Brands want to be associated with victory, celebration, unity, excitement, national pride. The emotional experience is the product. And emotional experiences can change quickly. When controversies emerge, sponsors become cautious, not because they stop supporting football, but because corporations are designed to avoid uncertainty. Every risk department inside every major company asks the same question. Does this investment still carry the same value it carried when we signed the contract? That question matters. Because when enough sponsors start asking it simultaneously, the financial environment changes. Not publicly, not immediately, quietly. Inside boardrooms, inside legal departments, inside private meetings where future decisions are being made. Then comes hospitality, one of the least discussed but most important revenue streams. The average fan buys a ticket. The premium customer buys an experience: private suites, luxury seating, corporate events, exclusive access. These customers spend thousands of dollars at a time. Losing a small percentage of premium customers can create a much larger financial impact than losing thousands of ordinary ticket buyers. And premium customers are often the most sensitive to uncertainty because they have options, many options. The challenge facing FIFA is that uncertainty has become one of the defining characteristics of the global economy. Inflation pressures, currency fluctuations, economic slowdowns, corporate spending reviews, travel costs. Every one of these factors affects consumer behavior, and consumer behavior ultimately determines whether projections become reality. The problem is that financial models are built using assumptions about spending, assumptions about travel, assumptions about demand, assumptions about confidence. Those assumptions looked reasonable when they were created. The world looked different. Economic conditions looked different. Political conditions looked different. Consumer behavior looked different. Now many of those assumptions are facing pressure simultaneously, and pressure creates consequences. The first consequence appears in spending patterns, not cancellations, not headlines. Spending patterns. A fan who planned to attend 3 matches now attends 1. A corporate client who planned to purchase a luxury package now purchases a smaller package. A sponsor who planned an aggressive marketing campaign becomes more conservative. A broadcaster who expected record-breaking audiences revises projections internally. None of these changes create major headlines, but together they create something far more dangerous. Momentum, negative momentum, because financial projections depend on growth. And growth depends on confidence. When confidence weakens, projections become harder to achieve. The second problem is perception. Perception may be the most valuable asset FIFA possesses. Football works because people believe in it. Sponsors invest because they believe in it. Broadcasters invest because they believe in it. Fans spend money because they believe in it. The moment confidence begins to weaken, every part of the system feels the pressure. That doesn't mean the World Cup is failing. Far from it. The tournament will still attract enormous audiences. The stadiums will still be full. The stars will still perform. The goals will still be scored. The trophy will still be lifted. But success and expectations are not the same thing. That is the critical distinction. The question is not whether the World Cup will succeed. The question is whether it will deliver everything the $12 billion model expected it to deliver. Those are very different questions, and history shows that giant organizations often struggle when expectations become too ambitious, because larger events create larger risks, more stakeholders, more complexity, more moving parts, more opportunities for unexpected problems. The 2026 World Cup is not just a football tournament. It is one of the most complicated sporting projects ever attempted. Multiple countries, multiple governments, multiple regulatory systems, multiple economic environments. Everything must function together. And the larger the system becomes, the more difficult it becomes to control. That is why some analysts are beginning to ask a difficult question. Has FIFA become too dependent on perpetual growth? Every tournament is expected to be bigger than the last. More viewers, more sponsors, more revenue, more expansion, more commercial activity. But growth eventually creates its own challenges, because expectations rise faster than reality. And when reality fails to match expectations, disappointment follows. Even if the event itself remains successful, that is the paradox FIFA now faces. The tournament may still be extraordinary. The football will almost certainly be extraordinary. The players will create unforgettable moments. The fans will create unforgettable atmospheres. The world will watch. But none of that automatically guarantees the $12 billion target. Because financial success is measured differently. Not in goals, not in trophies, not in celebrations, in numbers, reports, contracts, revenue statements, economic studies. The real verdict on FIFA's $12 billion bet will not arrive during the tournament. It will arrive afterward, when sponsors review performance, when broadcasters analyze viewership, when host cities calculate economic impact, when corporations decide whether future investments are justified. That is when the numbers will tell the full story. And that story may look very different from the one FIFA imagined years ago, because the biggest risk was never football. Football was always going to deliver. The biggest risk was believing that the world surrounding football would remain stable enough to support the largest commercial sporting project ever created. That was the bet. A $12 billion bet. And right now, that bet is being tested in real time. Not on the pitch, not in the stadiums, but in boardrooms, in financial reports, in sponsorship reviews, and in the decisions that will determine how the future of football is built. The matches will end, the trophy will be awarded, the celebrations will fade, but the question will remain. Did FIFA's $12 billion vision become the greatest commercial success in football history? Or did reality prove that even the world's biggest sporting institution cannot control the forces shaping the modern world? Because when the final whistle blows, the football story may be over.